Hey folks, today we take a look at a very familiar filter. It's the Biomaster Thermo 350. It's all coming up right after this. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec, and I've done an unboxing and setup for the Thermo 350 before. So I think this time we're going to focus a little bit more on just talking about it. I've actually used this thing for, I think it's well over a year upstairs. So I'm very familiar with this particular canister filter, and I'm excited to implement it once more on the new aquarium. So let's go ahead and take a look inside of this. It is quite a large box, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time opening it. So, all right, and here we go. Yep, it's just like I remembered it from upstairs, from the other aquarium, and it is really, really cool. Okay, so with this canister, as far as the ratings go, it says it's a max of 300 gallons per hour, or 1,100 liters an hour. It has a max lift of 5.9 feet, or 1.8 meters. That's how far that this is going to be able to push the water up above it. That shouldn't be a big issue, hopefully. And it says that maxes out at 90 gallons, or 350 liters. And of course, one of these filters does come with all the hosing you're going to need. You also get a bag of this miscellaneous fittings and cuttings. These are all the things you're going to need, both for your intake and also for your spray bar. It's got an option for a spray bar on there. We'll go over some of these other parts in just a minute. It should be noted too that because it's got the heater already installed in here, but it's got fittings in case you do want to pull the heater out. It's got a cap that you can use to cap off the hole that the heater leaves behind if you decide to pull your heater out. And it's also got a way to mount that heater separately if you didn't want it inside of your canister for some reason. We'll go over all this stuff later. They did a number of really interesting things with this filter. For one, they've color-coded all the parts that a user would interact with. So if I want to adjust the temperature, say, of the heater, you can see that that's there. Or if I want to pull that heater out and mess with it, it's right here. I love that it's got the channel cut so that you can put the handle down and it doesn't interfere with the cord in the back. You've also got your little latches on the side and all of these and these levers here, which cut the water off. And I think that's about it. Oh, and you've got your big button up here to pump. So you pump water down into the thing to kind of prime your pump. This particular filter has a couple of cool features. One, of course, the integrated heater, which I've probably already mentioned 3 times. I love having the heater in here. It's just one less thing in the aquarium, and I find that the temperature is much more consistent. I always struggle in my aquariums to put the heater in a place where there's a good amount of flow going by it. It makes it really convenient to just put it right here where the water's flowing past it. I love that. This thing also has a really cool pre-filter on this side, and we're going to open that up now. So you're gonna unlock this side, and then you can unlock this side as well. Now with this side unlocked, you're going to have the hoses with the water coming in from your aquarium and then going back out to your aquarium right here. With this unlocked, this will lift off and the water won't come through. So if you do want to pull this out, if you need to pull it out from underneath your aquarium, you can absolutely pull this off with the hoses and let it hang someplace while you pull this out. Now with this thing loosened on both sides, you can pull this, you just kind of tug on this. You'll have to be careful because water can sort of collect inside of here and it will kind of pour out the back. So you might want to have, I like to keep like an old Tupperware or something I don't care a whole lot about. I'll pull it out and kind of keep it underneath here as I take this over to the sink. Now once it's there, you can see this disconnects and it comes apart. And then you've got all these foam sponges. So these are your pre-filter sponges. And there's a couple of different kinds. These are a fairly coarse kind. I don't remember off the top of my head what the actual properties of this are, but they do have another one that they sell It's a blue in color, and this one at least is a 45 PPI. I haven't used these yet. I pretty much only have used these things. I've got 2 sets of them, and I usually interchange them. I'll pull one set out and set it aside and immediately put another set of these on. Makes this little chore really quick. Again, I could put those in that Tupperware or something, and I'll take those out to clean later. And I have ones that I've already cleaned, ready to go. Go ahead and put those back on. Slide the sleeve over the top of it. And it goes right back in here. Again, when you're putting this back in, when you're putting this back into here, be careful because there is kind of standing water in there. When you just place it, you can kind of make it come out. It's not a huge problem, it's just something to note. Then you kind of twist that till it's in place. I like to lock it and test it. You gotta lock the other side, kind of test it if you want. And that's it. That's a really simple step to do something that's usually a big pain in the butt on a canister filter, cleaning the pre-filter, just by pulling out this one little mechanism. I really love that. But let's open the top and kind of look inside of here real quick. And we'll examine the flow of the water and how it really works in here. So the water's going to come down in from your tank, and it's going to go in this side right here. That's going to go up to this pre-filter, and that's going to get split between the 2 sides of this pre-filter. And then it's going to be forced up the center here. Okay, so once we're past the pre-filter, it's going to go into here. It's going to come out of the pre-filter and then down through here. This is also where the heater is. So as this is getting pre-filtered, it's going to go past the heater. This leads into a channel that goes all the way to the bottom of the aquarium. And then it's forced back up. You know, as it goes down through here, it comes down to the bottom, and that's where they say to put the biological media here in the very bottom. And then it gets forced up through sponges and further cleaned and particles pulled from it, and then back out to your aquarium. Like so many canister filters, this comes with trays. Here's a little plastic guard tray here at the top. It looks like probably a finer mesh, sort of a thin, finer mesh foam here at the top. The next layer is a big old sponge. Is that 1 sponge or 2? Yeah, 1 big thick sponge. I'd wondered too, like if you were wanting to do something closer to the Novak anoxic method, you could probably take these and bisect them. Like cut a little bit off the top of one of these, hollow it out, then put it back over the top, and you could fill this full of cat litter or some bait clay of some sort. And I think if you left a nice layer where the water could kind of pass through around it, all the way around it, I think that would be at least one possibility if you wanted to try some anoxic filtration. But it's got, looks like, 1, 2, 3 of those trays with the big thick sponge. And 1 tray with a kind of a fine mesh sponge. And down at the bottom it's got some biological stuff, and it comes with these this plastic material, which I actually have used before. I don't know enough about. I didn't pull out the microscope or anything to see how well it worked in comparison to anything else, so I don't have a really strong opinion on it. But I'm probably going to be using stuff that's already in my filter. So I'm going to take existing things from the canister and add them in. And I will probably have at least 1 more layer before this stuff hits the biological. Now it is pre-filtered and stuff, but I would probably rather put in at least 1 sponge first. Then maybe my biological. Maybe another tray of biological. Then I can sponge it, I guess, a little bit on the way out. Actually, normally what I do is I take most of the sponges out, like it'd probably have be sitting with 2 or 3 sponges there, and then have just two trays full of the biological material. This little sponge at the end could be really handy to polish the water, but I also find that that sort of slows things down. And the rest of the canister filters kind of works the way so many of them do. The water's going to end up kind of pooling up here. There's a pump that's going to sit approximately right here in this quadrant. It's going to pull the water out. And you can see sort of how the heater's oriented inside there, where this is. There's where the water's pumped back out of here and into your aquarium. It all fits very nicely back right in here. I've got a lot of work to do on the new tank before I actually am ready to really do anything, but it will be a swap. I'm not going to try to bring the fish over from this tank to that tank. What I am going to do though is I am going to bring some of the substrate over to the new tank, and I'm also going to of course take some of the biological material, sintered glass and ceramic stuff in the canister filter in this aquarium. I'm going to bring that over. I'm going to add it here and kind of season some biological material. So I'll put a little bit of new, put a little bit of seasoned in there just to kind of get it going. So I think in those initial days, the substrate, the stuff that the substrate sloughs off, should be enough to kind of keep the cycle going in here in combination with the biological stuff that's already going to be in there. Seasoning up the new stuff, I think it'll work out and be good. Should have plenty of room, and this is something I was talking about too, is like if you put this under a cabinet, you want to have a lot of room to pull this out. As you can see, it's about twice the height, which I won't have, but a lot of times what I do upstairs is I disconnect this side. I'll go ahead and pull this out, and then I can kind of maneuver this to a place I want it to be. So I'm hoping in here maybe I can just kind of lean it forward and pull it out, because sometimes that's a pain. It's not too bad, but it's not, ideal. I am going to set this up pretty much the way it comes out of the box. Eventually I'm going to replace the input and output with glass. Sometimes when you start a new tank, if it gets dirty or if it kicks up a bunch of stuff at first, all you'll do is get your glass pipes dirty. So I'm going to let the thing run for a while, and then maybe I'll kind of upgrade these to something a little bit fancier as I go. So the biggest mistake I made last time is I made my hoses too long, and the other thing is I tried to engineer a pre-filter on the end of the hose, because I have a ton of cherry shrimp upstairs. The thing that I'd messed with the intake, and the intake actually fell off, and it was just a tube there, and all these snails had crawled up the tube and kind of blocked it up, and I did not realize that was happening. Yeah, I went to take the thing apart, and it was like full of Malaysian trumpet snails, and I'd been wondering why my flow had been so slow, and that's why. The other thing you want to make sure of is that your hoses are cut to an optimal length. So it needs to have maybe a little bit of slack, but not a lot. It needs to be to a length that doesn't let the hose bend. So you don't want any kinks. You don't want to bend or kink or offer any resistance in the water either getting in or getting out of the canister. It just makes it a whole lot easier for it to operate. Since I set this one up, a lot of people have asked me what the noise level is on this. And I got to say that it's, for the most part, if it's working properly in the times when I didn't have my hoses kinked up, since I've made a lot of improvements to it and cleared out the snails, it's working great. And it's very quiet. I'd heard it churning a little bit. Whenever I do a water change, I go to change this out. Inevitably, there ends up being some air bubbles in there, and it'll kind of chug along for a little while. But in the end, it does really, really well. And I have it in a bedroom with me, and it's not really been a problem at all. Something really easy to overlook when you get one of these things are these little rubber feet also. If you put them down here, you'll see that they fit nicely. They fit nicely into all these little holes here at the bottom. This too will kind of help with vibration and kind of keep this thing a little bit quieter, and also give it a little bit of a grip, so it's not just plastic directly onto the bottom of the stand. Yeah, much better. Alright, so what we're looking at here is actually the back of the filter. And I've got the hoses connected on either side. You see there's the line in coming in, and it's a little hard to see, but it goes right through here. I have the canister a little bit forward inside, so it doesn't go all the way to the back. I can lift the pre-filter straight out and pull it out, so I don't have to put it like near the front. But I don't necessarily want it all the way in the back either, and that's just kind of leaving myself a little bit of room in case I need to cut a tube or make an adjustment. One thing I did do on this that's non-standard is I've put a UV sterilizer in line. You guys may have seen this already. I unboxed this Fluval UV sterilizer. Now I have mounted it sideways, which I hope won't be a problem. It just kind of fit in there best this way as far as like getting it in line. I didn't want to bring this thing. I could have. There's a lot of room actually up in the top of this cabinet, and this is real hard wood. This was actually kind of hard to cut into, but very thick wood right there. And I've just got it drilled in. This connected up just fine. It's a little tight, but it connected up just fine. It's not exactly the same hose. It's not exactly the same hose that the Fluval said. This is actually a little bit bigger. It's a little bit bigger than the other, so hopefully this will work okay. Now the way the hoses attach, especially on the components, I've chosen not to do the spray bar right now. This has a spray bar that you could do. This is the other option for the attachment. And over here you have the intake. The intake's interesting in that you can take this part here and you can lower it up and down. It kind of moves along this tube. So you can kind of make some adjustments for there. I did end up cutting the plastic for this so that it would fit at the depth that I'm estimating that I'm going to need. Attaching all the hoses for this setup is pretty simple. Basically, I'm unscrewing this. You're going to put this little blue ring on, screw it all the way up. You're going to shove that hose onto the barb here the best you can to get nice and tight in there. And then this screws back down on top of it and kind of seals the deal, locks it in there, and makes it nice and attached. Yeah, that's the Biomaster 350 installed from the back. I've got plenty of hose left from this project, more than enough to like bypass this whole thing if I need to do that later. It probably would be hard to pull this off, and I do realize that this product in particular, which this video isn't really about, but this product in particular is kind of a short timer. It's not replaceable. Eventually this thing will just kind of die, and then you just throw it away, I guess. But it could take many, many years, depending on how you set it with the timer. I'm really excited to see how the Biomaster does in here. I think it's going to do well. I'm not going to have a lot of the wood that really chokes up the system like I do upstairs. So I'm hoping that it'll be even more effective than it is upstairs. If you did go to do the spray bar, it's basically real simple. This part's going to attach there where the little scoop would have been. You've got a little thing in the middle that's basically that tubing again, so you can kind of stick the two ends together. There are little holes all through here. And then there's another little piece that you put onto the end to kind of cap it so the water doesn't shoot out the end. And it's got an extra couple of suction cups, and then you've got a nice little spray bar. Yep, and that's going to be kind of the heart of the filtration. Of course, the goal is to replace this tank. I'm going to be, over the next couple of weeks, or the next week or so anyway, I'm going to be taking all the fish out of here and kind of harvesting as many plants as I can out of here and kind of making room for this monster. They got to be put into here. I'm going to have to rearrange, make a little bit more space. I've actually got a bucket with some trimmings, some plant trimmings and stuff. Kind of hoping there might be some babies in there, but maybe not, probably not. But I'm really curious to see exactly what I'm going to be able to harvest out of here. Like, some of it looks okay, some of it definitely needs to be trimmed out and cleaned up a little bit. I've got plans for all the fish that are in here to go to other fish tanks around the house, so it should be interesting. And folks, that's what I got today. Not a whole lot of progress on this. I am working on some stuff kind of behind the scenes. Right now I'm working on the hardscape, and I'm trying to figure out how I want it. I've set up myself a little sandbox in the back, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want to utilize all the resources I have in terms of wood and rocks, and try to make a real, real unique aquascape. I'd like to really push the limits with this one. I'm still waiting on some materials to come in terms of stuff I've got for the substrate on here. I've got a couple of bags that still need to come in, so I'll probably work on this on the base layer of this next. I'll do the substrate. Probably really my next goal will be dismantling the cube and taking it apart and getting everybody where they go. Really not looking forward to it because the timer really strikes as soon as you pull the fish out, you drain the water out and stuff. You got to deal with the plants. Yeah, the fish will be fine. They'll be easy to figure out where to put them. I've already figured that out. But you got to get the plants in there. You want to get the filter media into the new filter and then running through. I want to get some of the substrate included in the substrate layers for this thing. It's kind of funny just looking at the back of it. It looks like a big black box right now. I'm also working on the podcast and stuff, and I know I've been talking about them forever and haven't shown you anything, but still working out how I want to do that and getting them all finished. Big huge thank you to my Patreons for helping me out, getting me the supplies needed for this tank. The Patreon fund has definitely come into play. Especially in regards to buying the wood and different areas that really needed help. You guys really came through and have helped me out a lot. As well as the one-time donations and stuff, I'll put them up in the executive producer slot. You guys also, huge help. Thank you. We got a lot more to go with this tank. I'm kind of throwing everything at it. It's going to have CO2, UV sterilizer, really premium canister filter with an integrated heater, which is what we talked about today. Going to have the Kessel light that I've been using over there. Really nice substrate. I'm throwing everything at it, so hopefully it looks really good. It'll be definitely the highest tech. I know any CO2 included tank is a high-tech tank, but this will be probably the tank with the most integrated technology that I've ever put together. Hopefully it looks nice too and is free of algae. So that's what I've got going on. Sorry for the slow pace. I'm kind of taking my time with this one. I don't get a big tank like this to work on very often, so I'm being very exacting with my moves. But stay tuned to find out what happens with it. Until we meet again, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey folks, today we take a look at another very familiar. Hey folks, today we take a look at a very familiar. Hey folks, today we take a look at a very familiar filter. Hey folks, today we take a look at a very familiar filter. Wow, this is gonna be hard.